Hello, everybody. You are listening to Startup Secrets for Entrepreneurs, and I'm your host, Shelby Olischlager. Our mission here is to help entrepreneurs make a difference and navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. Join me today where we dig deep with our guests to give you the best concepts and strategies to fast track your business. Today, our special guest is Cha Higginson. Cha, thank you so much for joining us today. And to get started, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, Shelby. Well, it's a little bit complicated to say what I do.
Mhm.
Um, I'm a transformational mentor and I help people really transform from the inside out
Mhm.
using lots of different modalities. But I'd say the essence of what I do is shamanic healing, which in itself can be a little bit confusing to explain because it's very deep soul work. Um,
Mhm.
I find that, when people come across my work, they don't really necessarily understand what they do, but they feel this deep kind of like pull to kind of work with me. And what I do best is to not try and explain too much about what I do, but really be fully present with that person and just give them everything that I possibly can to get them to wherever they need to go. And so that really, my work goes beyond the mind and what they think that they need,
Mhm.
and really will help them really get to that next level. That's not necessarily what they think is in their best interest, but really helps them really get to that deep, soulful, really true, meaningful work and next level in their life, and of course in their business, because in the kind of world that I live in, I know this is not the same for everybody, but I really believe that as entrepreneurs and startups, we do things out of passion. It's more than just a job. We do what we do for so many different, like, it's a deeper meaning. So I help people really connect with that and get out of their own way to go and really do what they came here to do.
I love that. And I think that is so important to really uncover the layers and get to the deeper meaning. And you said it's more of like the soul. So it's very one-on-one what that person, I guess, needs at that time. So getting started, what was that like for you? Why did you feel that this was so important for everybody and especially for these entrepreneurs?
Well, it was a little bit of a journey to get here. I did the whole journey of kind of like starting up a business because I was a young mum and I was bored. Um, and then that business very much evolved from me completely burning out and then discovering how to do things differently. And then that led me to kind of uncover my own gifts and how I could help people beyond what I'd learned. Because originally I was an interior designer. So when I started my first business, it was around solving problems and, how we do business, or I guess how people did business like 30, 50 years ago. It was kind of, what are the skills that I have? What does the market need? And how can I make money from that? And, that's all valid. But I think that there comes a point where we have the opportunity to kind of just go so much deeper into really what is my soul calling me to do, and what does that mean, and how can I be the fullest expression of who I am and help others do the same. And even though some entrepreneurs may not see what they do as doing that, but I believe that at the core essence, that's what we're all doing. We're trying to figure out how we can use our authentic gifts to bring out the authentic gifts in the person or the group or the community around us.
Mm.
Um, so for me, it wasn't, I often get asked, like, so how did you choose this line of work? I didn't choose it.
Mm.
I kind of unraveled all of my own subconscious programming and, all of my stuff. And then I discovered that underneath it all, that's who I was. Um, so yeah, that was kind of a bit like my journey. And yeah, I ended up
Yeah.
here, and
That's awesome.
it
I
was
love that.
a
Yeah.
journey. Yeah.
We need people like that to share these messages, because I feel like it is often overlooked, where, like you said, the typical, oh, find what you're good at. Does the market need it? Can I make money? And like you said, that's all fine, but there's like that deeper sense, and we don't want people to do a job for how many years and then feel burnt out and then start back at square one. So I think really uncovering, like you said, the subconscious programming and finding our true what we're here for and what really lights us up for the long haul is so key. So tell us a couple things that you found to be really imperative and really start this transformation for people that you're helping.
I think it's really, as entrepreneurs, like it's hard. Like this world is, it's kind of, we're at a very much a transition time where we're changing the way that we do business. So I think what's really essential is to figure out, why we do what we do. Like really, and, not just kind of like, the surface level why, but the deep, the why behind the why, like what really motivates us. Because if we can really get in touch with that, the hard days make sense, because it's not about the hard day. It's about, okay, this is a challenge and I'm up for the opportunity to learn something so that I can actually be better at what I do. We don't take it like, okay, this is a shit day and it's really hard. We're kind of like, okay, how can I learn from this? How can I, everything becomes an opportunity when we know, when we're really, really anchored into what we're so passionate about. And what I've found in so many people is that we think that why we do what we do is one reason, but when we actually dig so much deeper, I've found that really on a deep, deep, deep soul level, people care so much about other people. We actually are always doing what we do to help others suffer a little less. And everyone does that in their own specific way. And it's quite magical to really understand what it is that motivates you more than anything else, because that anchors you on the really crappy days. So that, I think, is the number one. And it's not something that, when I started off in my journey, I'm sure I had a few mentors and coaches who asked me like, why? I didn't know to begin with. Like that took a little bit of time to really figure that out. And I think that we often, our businesses and what we're doing and how we're doing it can change. But if we can anchor into why we do it, that tends to never actually change. So I think, yeah, trying to figure that out, or making that a focus to figure it out is really absolutely crucial. And then figuring out how, what are the roadblocks to us doing the absolute best work that we can do, is essential. So often that comes down to, self-care and boundaries, and being fully comfortable to ask for help. I guess that was one thing for me, and it's one thing that I've picked up in so many of my clients, like, how comfortable are you asking for help? Because I feel like when we start as entrepreneurs, we have to do everything alone, because we don't necessarily have the funds, we don't necessarily have the support of people around us who get why we do what we do. So we have to be our own cheerleaders, and that's not the case for everybody, but often it really is. Like, you have to be your own mentor and your own cheerleader. But there comes a point where we need to be able to kind of like delegate and let go of a few things and be able to call in that support. And I feel like so many people do that when they're long overdue for it. But it's really that, knowing that it's okay to seek out support.
Yeah, I think those are two really, really, well, three really important things that we can start doing now. Basically finding our why, learning the roadblocks that are going to stop us from getting there, and then being okay to ask for help. I think those are definitely big ones, especially in my own experience. I can say that, yeah, that's probably really to get clarity on those would definitely be helpful. So what type of clients do you really help, and what does your kind of like your structure look like when you first get them to like taking them through the process?
I guess my clients always have an aspect of creativity to them.
Mm.
Um, I know that there are many people who are very analytical and very black and white. I'm married to one of them. My husband's an engineer. He's very, the world that he lives in is very different to my world.
Mm.
But I find I love working with people who have that kind of creative thinking aspect to them, which is very much a lot of entrepreneurs. I feel like we're a whole different breed of people. We just, we don't give up and we kind of think outside the box. And but that's kind of like in our makeup, but we all have grown up in this world that conditions us to be a particular way. And it's really challenging to break that mold of who we are expected to be. And I find that that's always the process for me working with clients. It's not teaching them who they are, but rather teaching them who they're not,
Mm.
so that they can just remember who they were from, most of the time when I work one-on-one with clients or with groups, it's always helping people witness themselves and be okay with fully being seen. Because I think that we all know who we truly are, but it's difficult to have the courage to be who we truly are because we've been so, rejected for it or shamed for it or just misunderstood by the people around us. So it's really that process of kind of helping people understand how they've been conditioned and, just really helping them understand that they're not wrong to be the way that they are, and that it's totally okay to be your own specific flavor of weird, because that's really where our gifts lie. And
Mm.
so it's really
Mm.
just that kind of pulling back the conditioning, and in whatever way that looks. I feel like we've all got the same stuff, but it shows up in different ways in everybody's life, but we all have the same range of emotional experiences and human experiences.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Totally. No, totally. Oh, I totally feel this. It's all the things that I really believe in, and just what you said, it makes me think making these people feel really empowered to show up and to accept these things, and to accept that, some of these conditionings or how they are isn't really because of them. It's really what they've gone through, and it's how that they've handled it. So I think that is really fascinating. I'm sure you have really incredible breakthroughs with these people where they're able to really step up. So what have some of those things look like? Like you mentioned, just, breaking through of our glass ceiling. Despite everything you've mentioned, is there anything that you notice that are helping these people really live that free life?
I think so much of it really anchors into our level of worthiness.
Mm.
And that's something that honestly, in the world that we grow up in, no, well, maybe there are some unicorns out there who are born feeling worthy and they just go through life knowing that they're worthy. But in my experience of most people, even the most incredible humans that I've met that are, successful and beautiful and seem to have everything going with them. And I think from the outside, you think, well, obviously, you know that you're amazing, but they don't feel that way on the inside. And I feel like that's something that we all share in common, is this deep sense of like, wondering if we can actually do it, if we are good enough.
Mm.
And I think when we can figure out where we started to believe that in the first place, like where did you start to doubt yourself, and
Mm.
why? And if we can get that out of the way, then we can really have the courage to just go, well, I'm going to give it my best shot because I am good enough. Maybe I'm not the best out there, but I can try and get better every single day. And I think that's all we can do, is just do our best.
Mm. Yep. Definitely agree
Mm.
with that. So moving back to just your own business, and said earlier, it's kind of hard to explain what you do because it is very unique and it's very deep. Maybe people don't even realize that this is a problem that they have, that they've drifted out of this idea of really being true to themselves and what they feel that they need to be doing. So how has it been for you to really be promoting your work and to gaining clients and just your messaging of sharing this to those people that might not even know really what it is that they need?
That's been a tricky one. And I think it's been somewhat slow in my business, because I don't believe in marketing to people in the sense of like telling people that there's something lacking within you that I can complete. It's something that I know that there's a lot of marketing strategies out there. They work. They work for good reason because people don't feel worthy.
Mhm.
I chose from the get-go to not use that kind of messaging and just get really, really good in my own lane at what I do and do it with a lot of integrity. And so my main marketing strategy is word of mouth. And so that's very much my clients go out there and tell their friends, I don't know what she does. I can't really explain how she does it, but now I feel confident, I feel worthy, I feel like I can take on the world. And so that matters to me more than, more than the stats. It's really having those people who are like, I want to change the world. I want to go and do something amazing, but I need to believe in myself. So I'm going to seek out the help of that person. But it's more, I let my work and my clients do that kind of like that wording for me, because it's difficult to explain. And because every single individual is so unique, no one session is like the next.
Mhm.
And therefore, it's a little bit difficult to kind of go, well, this is how it's going to work, and this is what it looks like, and this is what you're going to get out of it. It's like, no, I will spend this time with you, and you will have all of me, and I will do my absolute best to get you whatever results you need in this moment. And I found that that has the best results because I'm not attached to how I'm doing it. I'm really attached to helping that person to the best of my abilities.
I like that a lot. And I could see people, myself included, getting caught up in that idea where you said it's like, oh, I need that landing page that says this, these are the steps, this is what you get. And for a work like this, you like there's no possible way that you could have such a structure that's going to be the same per individual. So I think that's a really good takeaway. And you mentioned as well that you have a podcast. Can we talk a little bit about the process and journey of creating your own podcast?
Sure. That was a little bit of a weird one because I remember listening to a podcast, and I was actually sitting in my backyard, and I've always known that my voice is one of my gifts, and the way that I kind of express things. And I'm trained as a hypnotherapist, so obviously my voice was something that, and I do meditations and things like that, so I knew that it was something that really worked for me. But I listened to this woman talking about the process of her starting her podcast. And when she said the words, start a podcast, it's like someone turned the volume up on on the device that I was listening to. Like someone shouted at me, start a podcast. And I'm someone who I follow my intuition blindly because I know that it always pays off and I don't need to understand why and how. And so I got that message for me that was kind of like this, start a podcast, that I laughed at how shouty it was, but I thought, okay, well, maybe I should start a podcast. And I pretty much just launched it immediately. And it started out with just the desire to tell people the magical stories that I get to encounter in my work, and to give people hope, because there so many times I've come across people who, luckily they've had someone who's recommended me or who's told them, go and see Shah, she can help you. And they've trusted that. But they often come to me going, I've tried everything, nothing's worked. And they have this common, like, nothing's worked, so why bother? And they've lost hope. And I found that the one thing that we can really share and that can really empower people is stories, like stories of like true life stories of what's happened to somebody else. Not that anyone can fully repeat that same experience in their own lives, but it shows us what is possible. And we live in this universe that we do not fully understand. It is so complex and multi-layered, and honestly, it's quite magical. And I just wanted to share a little bit of the kind of experiences that I get to see and how they play out. And so even though it's really weird, yeah, my podcast was around just sharing those stories, and it's called Heartscaping, because I feel like we kind of, like, I love using analogies of nature because it just makes sense. We understand how nature works, and we try and make sense of how our human experience works. But if we just understand that we are part of nature, then we can totally understand how, we can't rush things. Everything happens in its own time. Everything is cyclical. And there is beauty in that death and rebirth and that cyclical nature of everything.
Mm-hmm.
For me, sharing these stories of heartscaping was helping people understand that, you have seeds within your heart, and you can nurture them, you can help them grow. And that really there's so much to be excited about in this life that it's not always easy, but it's actually always beautiful. And I really believe that, and I just want to share that message.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. And again, it kind of makes me think back of just perspective. Like if we have that perspective of looking at nature and that cycle, we're going to be able to look at our lives in such a way where we do feel more maybe at peace and at ease with it all and the whole process. And I think that would eliminate a lot of some of the issues that we face. So I think your work is so important. So moving forward with your business, what are some of your future goals? Like what would you like to see yourself, let's say a year from now?
A year from now, I would like to be connecting more with groups. I've found that the work that I do, I love working one-on-one because people are so individual and so incredible. But I've found that there's something that I'm able to do on an energetic perspective in groups of people and kind of like just activate people from the inside out. And it's not necessarily I'm using the words of people who've explained this process to me, because before I fully understood it, um, people told me that there was just something after listening to me speak that kind of, it's like something was ignited within them. And I believe that, this is not just a me thing. I think it's a human thing that we do when we're really connected to who we truly are and what our gifts are. We have this ability to kind of ignite other people around us and then kind of, light up the world essentially. So where I want to go with my business is just speaking in front of larger audiences and people, and just being able to give people that hope, and reconnect them to themselves, really.
Mhm. Perfect. So for people that really resonate with your message and they want to learn more from you, maybe work with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website. So that's chahigginson.com. That's with a C. Or I hang out on Instagram a lot. I really like the platform of Instagram, sharing stories, and I'm about to embark on a big road trip with my family. So I like to document and share a little bit about what's going on in real time. Yeah.
Perfect. And I always like to,
We share stuff on YouTube.
oh,
Occasionally when I get inspired, I have rants and I share them on YouTube. So you there too.
perfect. Yeah, I like that. I like the rants. Awesome. So one final thing that I always like to finish off my interviews with is if you have one last piece of advice or something that you want to leave the listeners thinking about after this conversation, what would it be?
Learn to trust yourself
Mm.
beyond anybody has told you, beyond what anybody else thinks. I think we there's something deep inside of us that we know what to do. We know the right course of action. So it's very easy to doubt ourselves in the world that we live in, and everybody else is going to doubt you. But if you can just learn and focus on really trusting yourself, or having the intention to trust yourself a little bit more every day, that's life-changing.
I love that. I think it's so powerful. It's so simple, but something we overlook just as people. And, going back to the whole circle of what we've been through in the past that has shaped us. I think trusting ourselves and our intuition is just a very good message. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing some of yourself with us today. Hopefully everyone got something out of it like I did.
Thanks so much, Shelby. It was lovely chatting with you today.